ISO FileMaker Magazine, the professional's resource for FileMaker know-how.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to yet another FileMaker tutorial video where we are going to learn more about FileMaker Pro. My name is Matt Petrowski, bringing you these tutorials from my website, FileMakerMagazine.com, where you can always find more information about learning cool stuff in FileMaker. In this video, if you're interested in doing anything with 1D barcodes, that's one dimension, not two dimensions, so one is the X or the Y, but not X and Y, well, we're going to take a look at that. Let's head to my desktop and see what I've got. All right, here we are on my desktop. Thank you. We've got the file right here. And if you are interested, you can get a copy of this file freely available over at FileMakerMagazine.com. In fact, if you like learning about FileMaker, I cover all kinds of stuff dealing with FileMaker. Now, when it comes to barcodes, there are many different ways that you can deal with barcodes. Let's get to the easiest and most important thing, and that's usually inputting or scanning barcodes. If you've just started with FileMaker, the easiest way to deal with barcodes is to simply scan them in. So here in the scripting workspace, which I've opened up with Command-Shift-S here on the Macintosh and Control, we want the scan barcode right there. All right. This is the easiest thing in all of FileMaker. Insert from device is the script step that you're going to use. But it doesn't just stop right there with insert from device. There are two ways that you can get information or get the barcode into your FileMaker database. One is you can scan just for the text of the barcode, or you can scan the image of the barcode, retain that image, and then pull the data off of that. That's what I've done here is the second one. Sometimes this little file that I created that we have right here that you can access from the magazine website, I did it for mobile. My reason was I needed to create a codebar, which you can see on screen. This is a codebar code, and we're going to take a look at the different types that FileMaker supports and all the different alternatives. Plus, I'm going to be showing you in this video, so stick around, why the one that we see on screen is a little bit better than maybe an image. This is an SVG. It's vector-based. It creates a smaller PDF. There are all kinds of reasons to do what I am doing on screen, which is using JavaScript. So stick around, watch the video if you're interested in knowing how to do the best barcodes within FileMaker, the most optimized. So here, when I double-click this step, you can see that I am importing into a field called image. So whatever your field is, you're going to specify that. Then we're going to select on the little icon here at the end, and we're going to see that we have barcode. Now, if your need for a barcode is not covered by what we see on screen, in fact, the items here, and one of the great things about FileMaker is if you know that you only want one specific barcode to support that, then of course you can go click, click, click here. My suggestion in all of FileMaker, do not do that. Select a starting item, then a second item, and then make your click in order to get rid of everything. So you can see I can turn them all on and all off. So if I turn them all off and I know that I really only want a QR code, then I'm going to selectively choose just that one. Or if I'm scanning a lot of industrial products, use code 128. So it really depends on what you need. Now, if you need to go beyond the list that we see on screen, like a PDF 14, a lot of driver's licenses will use this particular format. If FileMaker does not support that barcode, you are able to use a plugin. There are plugins that are available that will support those. Let me do a Command or Control A, select all, click all of them back on. When it comes to the camera, if you're going to store the image, then you do not need the full resolution image that can be scanned by a modern smartphone. It is way too much data. If all you need to do is read that, unless you really want to pinch in and zoom on to the barcode. Typically, you can even get away with a small setting. I just tend to set medium. I know that I'm not going to keep the images once the images are confirmed and they get into my database. Really, these two are what I would stick with when it comes to barcodes, unless you absolutely know you need large or full. So that's pretty much all we need to know. If I wanted to scan directly to a text field, what I would do is here, instead of specifying an image, I would actually specify a text field. And if I specified this field of data, what would be captured is the text of the barcode as opposed to the image. Now, if I do decide to capture the image, then what I'm going to do is I am going to then further process that image to get the barcode data out. Now, if you scan an image and that image has multiple barcodes, which some packaging does, and if you don't obscure the barcodes that you don't want, just scanning the one barcode that you do want, you need to know that this isn't going to be as reliable. But get container attribute. When you're looking at a container field, which this image field is, you have two options, barcode text, and then as you can see, let me zoom into it, barcode type right there. What we need barcode type for is if we are going to be doing the reverse of this process, which is being able to generate a barcode. And that's what the rest of this video is going to be about, because scanning a barcode into FileMaker is absolutely easy. But we need this particular object or this data right here. What is the barcode type that we just scanned so that we can actually replicate that barcode in order to output it? My particular use case was, and the reason that this file is formatted to work on FileMaker Go on iOS is that I wanted to convert all of my membership cards. So if you have those little membership cards or a key card, if you're part of a gym, if you're a grocery store, whatever it is, we need to know what type of barcode it is that we're scanning, which FileMaker lets us know with that barcode type flag to the get container attribute function. With that, now we can actually generate a barcode, and that's what's coming up next. That is what is really cool in FileMaker, and we want to generate an optimized barcode, and that's what I'm going to be showing you from here on out. All right, so the first thing that we need to know about generating a barcode is there are multiple ways to do this. You can do it with a plugin. I like the MBS plugin. In fact, we'll look at how many more barcodes they have a little bit later on in the video. Natively in FileMaker, FileMaker does not provide the ability to generate all of the list of the barcodes that we saw that can be scanned by FileMaker. Those are just input. Now, if we want to do output, by far, natively, the easiest way is, as I go into layout mode here, is with a web viewer. So we are going to go through the process of using this web viewer in order to generate a barcode. Now, there's three ways that you can do this. You can do it as an SVG, which is a vector-based barcode, and that is the best way, in my opinion, because it's very lightweight and creates a much lighter weight PDF, as we'll see. You can do it as an image, or you can do it as a canvas. Now, a canvas really doesn't apply to our needs in terms of there's a bit more hassle to get an image out of a canvas and then back into a FileMaker container. Whereas the library that we're going to be using, the JavaScript library, allows us to directly generate an image, and we'll look at the differences between the two. If you do need an image for storage, I am going to be showing you that is in this technique file. Keep watching the video and we will see how we can do that. However, if you need just the simplest of a barcode, an SVG barcode, because you need to generate a PDF, you can see that in this particular database, I click the button PDF that I have right here, and what's going to come up is a PDF of this particular barcode. Now we can see that when I make this bigger and as I zoom in, we know that this is an SVG, as I've zoomed in super large there, and I scroll down, that the fidelity and the crispness of the edges on text and the barcodes themselves is just super, super crisp. That is what we want as an ideal solution when we're going to integrate this into our FileMaker database. Now, the great thing about that is a web viewer, which we have on screen right here, can be set such that the web viewer using CSS to tell the SVG can be the exact dimensions of the box, either out of ratio or within ratio. As you size that particular web viewer, if you use FileMaker's anchoring, the barcode will responsively grow and shrink because it's an SVG and it's vector. That is why I like that particular system. Plus, the fact that if this was an image, we would start to get blurring and you have to make the image much larger, which we will see later in this video when we're talking about the implementation. So, in this file, what we're going to do is open up the scripts, and I have a script open right now. We can see that the scripts are startup, which is opens on file. We've got documentation, which is what I'm going to show you now. Scan barcode we already looked at. Here is the PDF, which we'll take a quick look at, and then getting a barcode when we want to get a barcode out of the web viewer that we have on the layout. So the documentation, if we simply just open the script and then I believe I have a web viewer, there I do, and I just run that script. So we'll select it, we click run. What's going to happen is all of those opened up in a different browser, and I wanted them to open up in the same browser. Let's see if I can get that to happen. Nope, it's just going to keep opening up in the other windows. All right, so all of these links, I've got another browser off screen is where it's opening, and it's only opening the first one within this particular browser. If I was to go over here and select documentation, I will double click this time so that the script stays open. If I save that and then run that, oh boy, FileMaker, you're just targeting the wrong window. I want you, yep, not going to go to it. All right, we will simply copy and paste the URLs. If you have just a normal browser opened on your Macintosh or on your Windows machine, just one of them, it will target and open all of those particular windows. Let me go ahead and open those and we will jump right back into the video. So you find yourself asking the question, where should you host your FileMaker solution? Well, one of those dots right there. That's what I would pick. Now, they didn't come to me. I went to them. And I trust fmcloud.fm with all of my data. They are using the latest tech. In fact, did you know Claris is actually in some instances releasing features first and only for Linux. What does fmcloud.fm use? They use Linux. On top of that, they use containerization. And if you've not heard about containerization, then you will be. It's one of the best ways to host your FileMaker solution. I highly suggest that you check out fmcloud.fm. All right, so now that I've gotten all the documentation open up into all of their tabs, we can see that the first one is FileMaker, where we've got the documentation about the barcodes that it supports. Now, number one, I will say, whenever text is already entered for you somewhere, take the opportunity to just copy and clean up that text. So here on this particular help article, if each one of these items that I'm highlighting here on screen actually represented the internal name that FileMaker uses for the get container attribute or for specifying a type of a barcode, then I would definitely want to just copy all of these, take them to a text editor, clean them up, and then create what we're going to see later on down the road is a map. So remember, whenever documentation has the values that you need that you want to program against, don't just enter them by hand and type them in if you can avoid it. Now, this is an example right here. You can see right as I drag this, I am able to resize this barcode. I've got all kinds of different options, height. I can specify what the barcode type is as things are selected. This is simply a demo page. And the demo pages, anytime that you're working with JavaScript, they include all of the code that you could use within FileMaker. I did not copy the code from this, and I have shown you how to copy the code in other videos. You're simply going to right-click, and provided you have developer tools turned on, this is the magic right here. Inspect element lets you inspect any particular HTML page, including its CSS and most importantly, its JavaScript. Now, we can see that this particular URL, lindell.me.js barcode, there are two different libraries that are the bigger libraries for generating barcodes within web viewers in FileMaker. They are this one, which is JS barcode that we can see on screen right there. That's what I've implemented into my file, and it's also in another file that we're going to take a look at from Soliant. But there is also this one right here called bwip -js, which bwip actually stands for this right here, barcode writer in pure JavaScript, BWIP, pure. I guess they forgot the JS part. Well, the JS part is this, because this actually starts out, a lot of code bases start out that are done in JavaScript from other languages, C, Java, etc., and then they're ported. And so this is a port of an initial particular item. Right here, you can see barcode writer in pure PostScript. I don't know if you're interested in this type of stuff, but it always interests me to know what are the roots, because many times you can go to the original, look at some of the algorithms that they use if you want to replicate things within FileMaker. So that's why I mentioned it's always good to sort of know the history and know where things come from. There also is this particular library, which is going to be in the Scilient file that we're taking a look at. If you need to generate PDF 417, which also happens to be very common in term because it holds a lot more information, and I believe that is a 2D barcode. Yes, it is right there. We can see that it's 2, so it's working on the x-axis and the y-axis in terms of what's scanning. FileMaker can scan those in, so if you need to generate them for your FileMaker data, then you're definitely going to be able to do that with this library. This file only has the JS barcode from Lindell that we see right there in the background integrated into it, and we're going to take a look at how I have integrated. I've done it in what I consider to be the most simple method, and what we're going to learn is how you can modify this to accommodate the barcode that you need. I do not have settings in this, wherein the settings that we see here on screen, all of these settings, these are HTML controls that allow you to adjust what the barcode looks like. The implementation that I have in this FileMaker file is very straightforward. It is just the library, and then you have to specifically say what you want as the settings to get the type of barcode out that you want. Now, there's two ways that you can do this in FileMaker. You can put the settings outside of the web viewer, and they're just regular FileMaker fields and values, and you simply reference and use those within the web viewer. Or, like we have here, if you wanted to use HTML and CSS controls like we have right here, you can put those directly into the web viewer itself. You could definitely just right-click here. You can choose that inspect element. You can copy the CSS from this demo page. You can replicate everything that is on screen right now and get that into FileMaker. It just really depends on your use case and how you need to implement the barcodes. So, let's take a look at how I have implemented the library into the FileMaker file so that you can use what I've given you here after you've gone and gotten the file off of the magazine website. Okay, we are going to break down how this is implemented. I've already told you that this is in a web viewer. If you need to be able to access and interact with the web viewer, the very first item that we see up at the top right here is how to enable the inspect element, at least on the Macintosh. On Windows, it's going to be different with IE, but it does support the ability to inspect items within IE. But this is the URL that's going to give you the information that you need in order to enable that debugger or enable the WebKit inspector, which allows you, when you have an item right here, to be able to choose that inspect element, bring that window up when you're in FileMaker, and be able to actually look at and interact with JavaScript, which typically is going to be done in this area, the console. But note that when you are looking at the elements of the web page, which in this case, if I was to scroll this out and scroll this up, we can see quite clearly that the object that we have generated here is an SVG. Now remember, I said that the JS barcode library allows you to generate the 3 different types. In fact, if we head over to that documentation again, let me switch over. I'll bring that on screen. We will go to the GitHub page. We will scroll down this GitHub page where you have all of the barcode types that are listed. But you can see right here, examples for browsers, which is what a web viewer is. We have SVG, Canvas, which that was, I believe, the former way, which we're going to see in the Scilient file is how they were dealing with it. Or the later versions of the library just support direct images, which we're going to see. If you need to get, like I say, a barcode as an image back into FileMaker, this is the option you're going to choose. If you need a high fidelity, something that will scale, you're generating a PDF, whether it's just the barcode or a barcode on the PDF that you need, SVG is the way to go. Now you can see that the simplest way to generate a barcode is to simply call JS barcode. That's how we create or call the library itself. We need something that we can identify where in the HTML it's going to go. If you don't already know, this hash actually means the ID attribute of an HTML tag, which we're going to see. So you just identify it by name, and then you pass it what you want. Then the only other thing that you need to do is literally say what type of barcode you want. So that's all super simple, but what we're most interested in is all of the options. So as we scroll down here, and it lists all of the different barcodes that can be created, we get to this magical section right here called options. The options is where you have full control. All of the widgets that we saw on that barcode generator page that we have right here, that's what all of these HTML widgets are controlling, is they're controlling the various different options that you have. So like I said, if you have the settings that you need to use programmatically on screen for you in a format that you can just copy, select these, copy them. I usually copy them from directly from Safari, go over to Numbers, Excel, Google Sheets, wherever it is. You can paste those into a spreadsheet, and many times it will take this table, and then you can select just the column that you want. You can even, if you want, and this is something that I love as well, always a good developer tip, I can print this page, and if I go in and literally just said just the page that it was on, well, I'm not going to take the time to find the page right now, but you can see right here on the Macintosh, I have this option right here to open in preview. So many times I will even do this and just generate the web page, or generate a PDF of the web page. And then as I scroll down here and I get to that options section, I can see that it got cut off because I was scrolled here. But one of the things I like is in the preview app on Macintosh, you can see that as I hold the controller, the cursor changes, and I can simply select just this column. I can copy this and I can go over into an editor now. So knowing these things about the different tools that are available on your platform, I cancel that. It's already on the clipboard. Let's just go over to the FileMaker database itself. You can see that if I was to I'll paste this in as part of my returned limited. Actually, there we go. Took off. You can see right there, I copied. It's got some white space in it, but I don't have to do a whole lot of cleanup. It's already on screen. If the text is already somewhere, just use the text that is available. So we'll select all of that, get rid of it, and we'll now go into the implementation. So in order to put into FileMaker, we know where the options are. We know that we need the library, and then we just need to hand it the value of the barcode and the options. So there's multiple ways that you can integrate a library into FileMaker. My preferred method, if the library is small enough, which most JavaScript libraries are usually under a couple hundred K. Once you get up to about 500 kilobytes, you're getting half a meg, things get really sketchy in terms of putting them in the way that I do. But I prefer to use custom functions. Some developers like to use a dedicated table putting the libraries into an actual field, and you're able to just reference those. Some developers, they want to simply just use a content delivery network, and they don't even put the library into their FileMaker database. They simply just reference it as a reference within the HTML. And then other times that I've done this, if I need to go beyond that 500 character limit, is I can put them in as a text object. So in the layout, I can scroll over to the side. I can literally put a block of text. All that text right there could represent a JavaScript library that I'm typing in. I give this object a name, and it can be like js.library, whatever it is, jQuery, what have you. I can then use the function getLayoutObjectAttribute, and I can get all of the contents of this data. So many times I will do this on, say, for example, a startup screen. If I'm going to start up, load the library, and then put that into a global variable. That's yet another way. There is just so many ways that you can get this into your database. My preferred way, as I mentioned, as we open up the custom functions, is to put them in as a custom function. Why? Because it's so easy for me to copy this and go paste it into any other database where I need barcodes. In fact, all I do is I just select all of these, which you can do, copy them, paste them into your own FileMaker database, and you now have instant access to being able to generate barcodes because this is the library right here. I have exceeded the 30,000 character limit, which is arbitrary. We can see that because this is provided by the MBS plugin. It's telling me that this is about 62K. It may be 65K on disk. I cannot modify this. I can't come in here and type something because I get this right here. But as we know in other videos that I've shot, The limit that we have, the 30,000, is just arbitrary. It's something that was implemented by Claris in terms of putting content into the custom function, but the custom function can handle more than 30K of text. But I am able to rename this as much as I want to whatever. If you don't want just simple JS barcode without the 3.1.316, which you can see right here clearly represents version 3.11.6, then that's up to you. But custom functions in this case makes it so that I can carry this library and make it transportable to any other file. So in the web viewer, we of course need the library. Now the best way to implement typically a library in JavaScript is usually to have the library in all of the HTML that we have right here. You can see that as I scroll up, we have the opening of the HTML page. We have the header. There's the start and the close of the header where you have all of your meta tags, your style tags, all of your CSS goes right here. You've got your body, and then you're going to have your script. Now this script is at the end or the bottom of the body, meaning what's going to load before that is this right here. This SVG declaration is our placeholder. This is where the JavaScript library is going to look for something specific. In this case, we can see this is a call to the library saying, hey, JS barcode, you are going to create a barcode. That barcode is looking for the hash, or in this case, the ID, and it's looking for barcode. So you can see right there, that is our match. It's not too far away in the code. And as long as this exists, then it will generate the barcode, as long as the options are correct for that barcode type. Now, can you have multiple barcodes? You absolutely can. You're just going to use a different ID value and generate that barcode the same way that we are right here. The great thing about doing this is we have the declaration of where the barcode is going to go in the HTML. We can control this with full CSS. So if I was to make a return right here and put in SVG and give these two brackets right here, I can tell this SVG whatever I want it to do. If I want it to be a width of 100%, I can do that, and a height. Now this may distort the barcode if I was to do that, and you always have to check with CSS that you're getting the result that you want. But because there's only one SVG in my HTML, this particular one, I can control it with the CSS that we have highlighted right there on screen. So in this particular case, I'll go ahead and get rid of that. You can also put the style tags directly on the HTML tags. So I could go right here, style equals, and then put my quotes. I'll need to escape those and then put in my style tags right there. So that's another way that I could do this. But how you use the barcode, what you do with it, of course, is up to you. This is all that we have to provide. The fundamental is to the barcode. This little comma is separating our values being passed to the call to the library. This is where I am going to take my FileMaker data. So clearly I am concatenating or sandwiching in all of this JS or this JavaScript right here, my own FileMaker function. So this is where it's up to you in terms of how you pass the data into the JavaScript. In my particular case, this custom function, barcode filter, which we're going to look at right now, is something that I like to do because I don't like to let users be able to create bad or wrong things. So every single barcode that you deal with is going to have a limitation in terms of the character set that it supports. So for example, my needs was I needed a codebar barcode. And if we go into our custom functions and we look at this barcode filter function, we can see that barcode filter is accepting two parameters. I've said that it accepts a type and your data. So once your data goes in, it's going to use a type in order to filter that out. So we look at the custom function, and there very clearly I am only supporting two types. If you need PDF 14, you need to go research and look at what does PDF 417, I forget, did I say 417? I don't know. 417 is limited to a certain character set. You go find that, maybe on Wikipedia or maybe at the official spec. You go put that into FileMaker, and then you say, I am only going to allow these certain characters to go through to the barcode. So in my case, let's look at the CodeBar. So if we scan a barcode into FileMaker, we get the type from the get container attribute. Looking at the barcode type, CodeBar comes in. We say CodeBar, if we look at this particular custom function, only allows these characters. And this is the limited set. This is just a string. It is a custom function in order to store the string, which is known as a constant. So if you see over in other programming languages, JavaScript, Perl, Ruby, what have you, almost every other language has a concept called a constant. A custom function can act as a function, as a constant, or as actual data, which is based on the context of your FileMaker database, which we'll talk about, and I have talked about in other videos. But in this case, this custom function, barcode CodeBar, is a constant that says CodeBar only allows this character set. That is 0 through 9, the colon, the dash, and all the other characters that you see, plus A, B, C, and D. With that, that gets passed through the barcode filter, meaning when you pass your barcode data in, I am going to use those characters and I'm going to filter on that and take out any characters that are not valid for that barcode type. Otherwise, you can see right here, if it's not one of the formats that FileMaker supports or that you haven't implemented into the barcode filter, then the data just simply passes through. So again, if you are going to work with a barcode type other than these two that I have in this example file, you must implement it. Don't assume that I've done all the work for all the barcodes for you. I have not. I've only done things that I've needed. So now we get to the part where when we scan a barcode into FileMaker, whether we're capturing the image here or if we're just wanting to generate, FileMaker's barcode types that it recognizes are going to be different than the library that you actually implement. That is where we get to one of the other functions in this file, which is barcode map. Now, I have not directly mapped because I have not scanned or used all of the different possible types that the FileMaker barcode scanning supports, nor all of the different types from all of the different libraries. I've only worked with the barcodes that I've worked with. And all of these that are listed here aren't exactly correct. In other words, when I scan something in FileMaker, and we're only working with these two right here, these two check marks and this one. These are the only ones that I have scanned because of this check mark right here, meaning I've verified that they work. These, I don't know if they're actually the right thing. When I scan a code 128 barcode into FileMaker, initially I had this like this because that's what was specified on the FileMaker webpage. And the FileMaker help documentation doesn't even have the list of the actual values that they use. It's only when you scan the barcode that you actually find out, oh, FileMaker recognizes and returns this from the get barcode type, looking at the get container attribute. This is what FileMaker scans in. Well, we need to map that to what the JS barcode JavaScript library expects for that same type of barcode. And here we can see that it expects a code 128 without the dash. So this map, this barcode map, is simply going to map from what FileMaker understands or recognizes as the value that identifies a barcode into the value that identifies a barcode in the library. And that's pretty simple. All the check marks represent the ones that I have dealt with. You're going to have to scan in those barcodes because I did not have access to an EAN 8 or an EAN 13 or an ITF 14. If you have access to those barcodes, then you can put them in, update that function. Somewhere somebody should put a function where this is just authoritative, and because they're somewhere and developers have done them. So now that we've got that, we can go back into the web viewer and take a look at what is going on in the remainder of the code, because what we can see is, first off, what I'm doing is you can see that this whole thing is just one gigantic list function. But the great thing about the list function is that anything where it finds a line that ends up being the result of nothing, it simply just kicks that out and squashes things down. Well, in the inside of a list function, you can see that clearly I'm using a let function, which is I can do computation or calculations inside of a list function where the end result is the list that I want. The end result is all of this HTML. But within this HTML, I want to run some code that decides what are the options and what are the settings for the barcode that I need. So here's the line that says we're using JavaScript. Here's the line that says, here's the library, the JS barcode that I'm going to load. Then here's the line of what do I want to reference in terms of my data. Here are my fields. There's my data. There's my type as captured from FileMaker. I can now use those, and I can map the type into the type that the JS barcode wants, and I can pass my data through my filter. So we already saw that we are filtering the data based on the type, and then the format option that JS barcode wants, we are simply going to reference our map and say, well, if I hand you a FileMaker code -128, you're going to return to me what the JS barcode expects of a code 128 without the dash. And that's exactly how this works. All of the rest of the options are up to you. And as I stated at the very beginning of this video, I just go over, get the options, and if we scroll down this script, all of the options are right here. So any option, and it includes the default. So if I want to change the width, then I can change the width from 2, which is the default. So we can see it's the option, the default, and then the type. This is the JavaScript, the JSON type. So if I want to change the default from 2, then of course I can do that up here in my code. Now this is where we get into the I need to get an image out. If you're going to create the PDF, I've already told you, just go with the SVG. It's much easier. If you want to use this library to get an image out, we can absolutely do that, and you can see that it's commented out right here. Now there's two things. We need to know that we're going to use a FileMaker script in order to get the data, which actually creates the barcode, and then set that into a container field. Well, as I uncomment what we have right there, and I say, I'm not going to generate an SVG now, I'm going to generate an image, and note again that the ID must be the same. The ID that we have here, barcode, has to match barcode right here. If you change it in either place, you've got to change it in both. Well, in this case, you can see that on the image that's going to be generated, I say that I've got a width of 100 and a height of auto. That's going to make the image automatically fit the web viewer. The problem with an image is that if you do not create an image large enough, then you won't get the print quality that you want. With an SVG, you will always get the print quality that you want because it scales up infinitely. But there are times that you want to get an image, and this is how we're going to get the image out. First off, if we go back and we say go back into browse mode, you can see that we're getting the image. Quite clearly, you can see the pixelization right here. This image is not large enough. That means we need to go in and change our options if we want to get that image out. So we double click, we go into our specify for our web viewer. We are going to probably have to jack this up. I'm going to do a width of 6. I am going to do a height of 200, and I'm going to jack my font up, which we would see would be super tiny, to, let's say, 60. So all of these settings, by jacking this up, when we're going to create an image, is going to create an image that's a high enough resolution that when we get this into a container, the container will size it down. It'll make the thumbnail smaller, but we know that it's a large enough image. Now, we're only talking about a few K here. Making this image is not going to be, a massive amount of data. We can see that it got larger. The resolution looks better on screen, but we can see if we click the PDF, and if we go over to this PDF, the image versus, you can see right there where when we were zoomed in so close on the SVG, everything was just crystal clear. Here we can see the fuzzy, the pixelization. When I scroll all the way down, we can see that the pixelization is on the edges. But of course, all the way out, once your image is big enough, it really doesn't matter. So if you need to get the image now back into FileMaker, all we have to do is we need to make the web viewer such that it can be interacted with. We go into layout mode, we double click, we verify that this option, allow JavaScript to perform FileMaker scripts, that's the way that we get the data that's in the JavaScript back into FileMaker. That has to happen with a FileMaker perform script, which is down here at the bottom. So in this super large list function, we can see that we are embedding another function, another let function, and we are saying we are going to have a script value. Now here's something that's unique about this particular web viewer. I want all of the code in this web viewer to only exist once. I put up two fingers, one time. So this function is what's allowing me to get the barcode out. I've created a JavaScript function called getBarcode. It creates a variable called barcode where it says, I want you to look at the HTML looking by the ID of the barcode. We are going to look at the source of that. And because we know that as I scroll up, the image, the source that is generated on this image tag by JS barcode is something that I am going to grab. Now, because it creates a base 64 image, the source, we are going to replace the data image plus the little base 64. Now, you can do this in two places. You can do it in the JavaScript before it gets into FileMaker, or you can pass it into FileMaker and then rip it out with your substitute functions. I'm just doing it here in JavaScript because JavaScript is faster and it's easier, and what I'm passing into FileMaker is just pure base 64 code. And you can see that I'm performing a script. Now, the reason that I am referencing a locally scoped variable, which in turn, that's the reference is right here. We're saying, FileMaker, you're going to perform a script, and it's this script. What is this script reference? Oh, it references a locally scoped variable. This gives me the opportunity at runtime of the script to actually tell FileMaker what script do I actually want to run. So I can be choosy. I could run this script or that script because it's part of a variable. When we go look at the script itself, which is going to do this, and we open up the scripts and we can say get barcode, we can see that I'm using one script. This is a trick that you can do in FileMaker wherein part of what happens is you can dual purpose a script. And let me get this on screen so that I'm not blocking it. This is something that I like doing. When data comes into a script, there's two states. There either is a parameter coming in or there is not a parameter. And what happens is you can dual purpose a script and say, if there's no parameter coming in, then we're going to do this. If there is a parameter coming in, then we're going to do this. Two different things with the same script. And what happens is you're able to, when you pass in or set a script value, which we can see right here, I can set this locally scoped variable, which we clearly saw is used by the web viewer. Hey, just get the name of myself. So even if I change the name of this script from get barcode to get barcode whatever, my code is dynamic because get barcode just changed to get barcode whatever at runtime such that that's the value of this locally scoped variable, which is used inside of the web viewer. Beyond that, what we're going to see is that this layout is not the layout that I'm printing from. I'm printing from a completely different layout. Let's go ahead and show the layouts. I'll bring that on screen. So I have my user interface layout, barcodes. I have my print layout, which is a separate layout, which is going to do the print setup at the size that I want. And both of these places have to use a web viewer. But I only want the code once. So as we open up this layout and we have it side by side, we'll close the manage layouts. So you can see, here's my user UI, here is my output. When I go to the layout mode of this particular layout, note that I am still using a web viewer. Quite clearly, what's selected on screen is a web viewer, but in this case, this web viewer is only using a global variable called render. Why did I do this? For that exact reason. I only want all of that code, the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript. I only want to have it in one place. In this case, I'm doing it in the UI, and then I take the full contents of that, which all of the HTML and CSS is all merged together with my FileMaker data and my variables, the script name, etc. And I'm just going to pass all of that via a global variable to another web viewer. And that's what the web viewer renders. It has the library, it has everything that I need. So you can see right here, using a global variable because we don't want to replicate code. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So this is a great way to have dry code. Do not repeat yourself is what dry stands for. And we can have it in one place. So in this instance, all we have to do is, if you want to see it work in action, you can use your debugger. I have a script set up, which we'll move on screen. It is the save right here. We want to get this larger version of a barcode as an image, take its source, and get it into the container that we see right here. So we click save. That's going to invoke the script. We're going to turn on my step through, and we're going to step through. First off, you can see that we're looking at the position. So in this particular case, in the script, I know I'm dealing with an image. Because that web viewer can either have an SVG or an image, you can actually turn on both if you wanted to. I am looking for the value of an image tag using the getLayoutObjectAttribute function, looking at the named web viewer, looking at its content. So if in all of the HTML and CSS there is no image tag, I know that that's when I have switched it to use the SVG, and there's no reason for the rest of the script to run. And I would show a dialog. In this case, we're not going to hit the dialog because the image is turned on. Now, this is where we get the script parameter coming in. In this particular case, when we look at the data viewer, we can see that there is, let me get it on screen, there's no value that was actually set. There's no script parameter coming into this script. So we want to run this first part, and you can see that all of the logic is right here between these two. If there is a value that came in, we're going to do this. Otherwise, we're going to do all of the rest of this, or the inverse of whatever I'm saying on screen. So in this case, the base 64 is empty. We are going to say what is the name of the script, because remember the web viewer wants to reference this variable right here. So if you change that in the web viewer, change it in the script as well. It gets the name of the script, which I believe is still named get barcode, whatever. So we know that the JavaScript will successfully run FileMaker perform script because it has the right script name. We need to reset the web viewer. This is important because the web viewer did not formally have access to this global variable or this local variable. It wasn't set before. So because this is super fast running JavaScript, I'm okay with the additional run, which is happening. JavaScript is running a second time. It had already run the first time in order to render what we were looking at on screen. But now, because I'm calling the set web viewer to reset so that it has access to the script variable that we need it to have access to, we can now perform the JavaScript. So when this performs, you can see down here at the bottom, this value just showed up. And if we look at that, it is that script, dual purposed, is calling itself and passing in, as you can see quite clearly, all of the pure base 64 that was generated by the JS barcode. So this script is going to exit out, and then we're now into the second run. So that script just exited out. We now do have the base 64. We can see that the value was set. And now at this point in time, we can just simply use the base 64 decode. So this long string of text, which is the barcode, is going to be generated. It's populated into the container field right there. We commit the records, and we are done. And all of that happens super fast when you're doing this within FileMaker. You can change this to whatever you need, let's go add some characters, barcode render, save it. You click it, it's instant. I mean, it is just super fast. So what do you do if you need to generate a lot of barcodes? Is this a good viable solution? And What happens if you want to use the web viewer and you're going to print a lot of barcodes, all of them on a particular layout? Well, that's what we're going to talk about as we wrap up this video. All right, so let's talk about performance. What do you need to do? I've already told you that the best quality print is going to be an SVG. And likewise, if you're doing a moderate number of barcodes, we're not talking about tens of thousands, we're not talking about just a ton. The optimization to this is, number one, you of course are going to use SVG if you want the highest quality. And what you want to do is you want to get this code down to the smallest amount possible in terms of what needs to process. That's both on the FileMaker end and on the JavaScript end. So however much you have in this web viewer, for each time that a web viewer is going to be rendered, if I was printing, let's say, a 500 record PDF, FileMaker is going to have to render those barcodes in the web viewer on each one and do that before it can actually output the PDF. This is where you have to test based on the barcode that's being generated. Obviously, a codebar, which has a very small set of characters running through my barcode filter custom function, is a lot smaller than a PDF 417. So you basically have to test what's going to be fastest and is the wait time acceptable for what you want to do. Now, an SVG is going to be a little bit faster in terms of its generation than an image. If you need to do the image, does it make sense to go generate that image for the 500 barcodes and save them all to a FileMaker container field, all at however many K, 7K, 8K, whatever the barcode ends up being? Everything that impacts performance are things that will control what the size of the barcode is. For example, the background right here. If I set this to a color, and that color adds more in terms of what JS Barcode has to do, not a whole lot, we're talking about fractional amounts, then that's really up to you. Or can you use FileMaker's background in order to print things? You notice that in this hex value where FF stands for white, there is a second hex value that you can set that controls transparency. So this is called the alpha value. So normally in the documentation, it shows you this white value, but if you add the alpha value of 00, this makes a transparent barcode. So now if I was doing an image and I made an image go into a container field, but then I wanted to control the background, let's say I wanted to show some funky little picture or something, that's when I can, using FileMaker's layout, put an image behind a container field where that container field is going to show the transparent barcode on top. Or if it doesn't matter to me, if I want to literally just change this to a, what is that, RGB. If I just change this to, what is full value on F, I forget, it's going to be turquoise or some magenta, some color. If I want JavaScript to do the background, then that's when I would control those values right now. So it really depends. You need to performance test what you're going to get as a result, whether you're doing SVG, whether you're doing image, how many options are you using in terms of those, what's being set. Is JavaScript faster to do it, or is FileMaker faster to do it? Do I set the background to transparent by going like I showed you right there by adding the alpha value? It really is up to you. And ultimately, what's going to happen is if you need the fastest solution, nothing is really going to beat a plugin. And if you need barcodes that are beyond what FileMaker supports here, well, that's what we're going to take a look at, and we are going to say goodbye and wrap this video up. All right. If you need the ultimate in speed for massive barcode generation, don't do it in FileMaker. That's my answer. Do it with an external technology. Now, you can use a plugin, or you can completely go outside of FileMaker and use whatever language you like, Perl, Ruby, Node, JavaScript, whatever. Many other languages can do many things much faster than FileMaker, because when you are in FileMaker, FileMaker has this constant polling thing going on where it's like it's asking all of their clients, hey, are you showing the latest data? Well, if not, let's get you updated, and it's constantly happening. If you are going to be doing barcodes, you definitely want to do them server side. and then just have them populate into fields and then actually show up. If you're doing one-offs, what this file has will be more than sufficient. But if you need the fastest solution possible, then taking a look at a plugin like the MBS plugin, where it has a function called Barcode Generate. What you're going to see is that the symbology, or the list of symbologies that it has, as I scroll here, is just going to be way more exhaustive. Look at all of those symbologies that it has in terms of pretty much every single possible barcode that you could think of. It is going to have all of the different PDF 417 types, QR codes, OS route, OS reply, etc. You can find JavaScript libraries many times for one-offs. In fact, one of our most popular QR codes, there is a JavaScript library, I forget what it is, that I use that is not only SVG, it doesn't rely on an image, but it will also support emoji and all of the other well beyond the ASCII 128 characters, and that's something that I like to use. So if I don't have in a project access to the MBS plugin, which is the easiest, it uses an open source library that has all of these symbologies, then I will use a JavaScript library and do exactly what we have on screen. But for the most part, for the most common barcodes, you've got the solution. You are able to use code 128, code 3 of 9, code 9 of 3, right here in FileMaker. Everything that FileMaker can scan in and out, natively you have it all supported with a JavaScript library. So the final thing that I'm going to say and give you a reference is, if you want more information, if you cannot figure out PDF 417, and that's what you need to implement, I'm going to switch over to a file. Both of these files happen to use the JS barcode library. The file that we have from Scilient here, and if you go search the Scilient website for barcode, I should have shown the repo. In fact, I'll show that right now. I'll put this in the documentation script. This is where you can get access to an implementation. It's a much more complex implementation because I believe it's an older implementation of JS barcode before they supported the image tag type. I like just pulling the source directly off the image. Plus, I'm not fond of how the library is implemented in this particular file. It's not the minimized version. It's not optimized. It is just a large blob. It's coming from, I believe it comes from a table. It does. As I open that up, you can see right here. Here is the library that Scilient, or that Mike from Scilient implemented. As I scroll through this, again, it's not minimized. It's actually the ESM version, I believe. It's not the minified optimized for the browser version. He does have the PDF 417. So the reason that I mentioned that throughout the video is that if you are interested and you need more information about the generation, say for PDF 14, you can see that we have that right here, where it is going to generate that particular barcode. It is implemented in this file, and this is the repo where you can get it at. I'll show that on screen. Plus, it will be in the documentation of the file that you've been able to download from the magazine website. Compliments to Mike for providing this through Scilient. They have an article about this. There are many other videos on YouTube about barcodes and FileMaker. I just happen to prefer my particular implementation, and I wanted to give you the information that helped you to implement and fully understand what the round trip is, difference between image versus SVG, making the print, having your code in one place, getting it over into another layout and using it there. All of those little things I wanted to address, and I hope this video has helped you understand better how you can implement 1D barcodes. 2D as well, you can use QR codes, but getting those into your FileMaker file, and plus this file, it just runs. If you need to regenerate all of your different codes, they're usually either code 128, code a bar, or you can put in code 3 of 9. So much luck to you, and until next time, happy FileMaking.
We hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial, and we'd like to say thank you for your subscription and your support. If you're not already a subscriber, head on over to www.filemakermagazine.com/subscribe for more information about the benefits of joining.